once we can figure out what the heck a woman is, we can figure out what the Illuminati has to do with cloud seeding.
Bill Gates, the high priest of global doom, just flipped the switch just like that after spending a decade fear-mongering that we're just one carbon molecule away from extinction. Gates now says, and I quote, climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. That's a pretty remarkable pivot. So today we ask, is the tide finally turning on the climate panic, or is Gates just hedging his bets before the data buries him? So Joshua, welcome to the Wake Up America show, sir. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate you having me.
So let's start with your reaction. When somebody like Bill Gates walks back a decade of doomsday messaging, what does that signal to you?
Man, it signals what I kind of knew all along, that these climate alarmists were full of it to begin with. Bill Gates and his ilk, if you will, they go back with Al Gore back to 2004, 5, and 6. I mean, this is when I was in high school. And, if you go back even further than that, the 1970s, it was global cooling. Fast forward 30, 40 years later, it's global warming. And by the way, it was global warming before it became climate change. Then it's climate disruption, and they keep changing everything, kind of like they did with Common Core and mathematics and all. And so when Bill Gates comes out and says what he says about the climate actually isn't going to end the world like we thought it would, he's just confirming what we already knew. And really the background on all of this is I've been trying to explain to people, my dad as well. My dad got me into this storm and storm chasing and weather, and we have said time and time again that severe weather is not getting worse, and that was their forecast. That's how they predicted climate change. They talk about CO2 levels and everything. Austin, you know as well as that, no one gives a crap about CO2 levels. Like, that's not good. They go, I want to put food on my table, and you're spending billions of dollars wasting my tax dollars on something that I don't even see as a threat. And so that's the issue, is that they've been perpetuating this fear with nothing to back it up whatsoever.
So you've chased storms for 25 years. What is the difference between real weather data and the kind of alarmism that we hear from climate extremists?
That's a great question. So when I look back at websites, for example, like the Storm Prediction Center, NOAA, which is the kind of umbrella, the National Hurricane Center, I've looked at their data. And their data actually points in the direction that climate, the weather is not getting worse. It's just not happening. And so when we're talking about these scientists, they're trying to take the numbers and skew them, right? I mean, I'll give you a really good example. Prior to like the early 2000s, they used to not really name too many hurricanes out in the Atlantic basin because they didn't really affect anything. It was a storm that was big and bad, but it wasn't going to affect land, so they didn't really care. Also, our technology was much lower. We didn't have the kind of advanced technology we have today, so it's harder to measure those things compared to today. And so I think it's important for people to look at that, because those numbers, that matters. Those numbers will be skewed compared to today. So if we're going to do that, we really absolutely have to begin to take our current technology and compare it for the next 25 to 50 years, as opposed to the last 25 to 50 years, going even back to the 1970s and 80s. And I think that's important if you want to talk about real data.
So Bill Gates says that humans will adapt to climate change. Isn't that something that people, conservatives and libertarians, have been saying all along and we've been getting smeared for?
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's ridiculous, because we have said time and time again, right, that climate changes. That just happens. In fact, climate is defined as weather over the course of a 30-year period. Guess what, folks? That happens all the time. That's never not happened. The thing we reject, the theory that we reject as conservatives, libertarians, people who are just generally liberty-minded, is that man is causing this to happen, and that our CO2 levels are off the charts, and that, cow farts and burps and everything, whatever you do outside, that's going to cause it. Look, when a volcano goes off, it emits so many emissions in the atmosphere. I believe it's comparable to like 10 years of what America pops off in 1 year. And that's just, that's incredible. I mean, that's wild that volcanoes are supposedly causing this, but they never talk about the volcanoes. Maybe we should brand volcanoes as racist.
We're speaking to Joshua Moore this morning. Good morning. Rise and freedom. Joshua Moore is a former New Hampshire state legislator. He is also an experienced storm chaser. He's talking to us this morning about Bill Gates' stunning climate change reversals. So since you served in the legislature, let's talk about this from a legal perspective. How much pressure did you see from these green lobbyists or for federal climate mandates, even at the state level?
I'm very happy to say that they really didn't try too hard to infiltrate New Hampshire as much as other states, because we had a lot of Liberty people in New Hampshire that said, "Don't bring that stuff here."
You lucky sons of bitches! You guys, congratulations, New Hampshire. You guys
That's
have,
right.
you guys have been, you guys have literally been like the porcupine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Congrats to them. I love it. But I did. So one of the things that I did, I think it was in my second term, I actually introduced a bill to reduce the OBD2 testing requirement that only goes after the emission side of the at the time, which was the New Hampshire State Inspection for Vehicles. And my argument was this: look, you're basing this specific thing. I just want to remove this. You can keep the car inspections right now. I want to get rid of them ultimately. And by the way, they did this past year with Kelly as governor. But I wanted to get rid of that. There were a couple people that came in state reps and they said, "Hey, we're going to not only lose federal funding, but we have concerns about the emissions." I'm like, that's what I'm trying to tell you: is the emissions don't matter. You're basing this legislation, or your opposition to this legislation, on a lie that you've bought. Should I just go ahead and lay out all the data for you? And I told them that, and I did briefly, because you only have a certain number of minutes, and they didn't care at all. But that's the name of the game. The bill did not pass, but thankfully years later, of course, the car inspections are completely wiped out, which is awesome. Yes.
God dang it, you guys! You can't keep having those kinds of wins, man. We're supposed to. It's just, it makes me jealous. It's like how I look at Argentina these days because of Javier Milei. I don't know if you know what's going on down there, but it makes me angry because it's like, hey, this is what libertarian is. This is American. Dang it, we need this here. And I'm glad to see that New Hampshire does lead the way. Somebody's got to be out front. So congratulations to all the New Hampshireites. Looks like you got some fans. Penelope Pitstop over on Rumble says, "Hey Joshua, good to see you." I don't know if you made any pit stops for Penelope, but unless she lives in Texas, I doubt it. So talking about Texas, that's your new home. Now, Texas is often portrayed as ground zero for climate catastrophe. What is the reality on the ground?
Yeah, there are a lot of huge trucks out here blowing smoke, and physically, and I love it. I'm like, heck yeah, just fire the emissions.
All right, Joshua, that might be too much. I don't know if I love it.
But there's, of course, you have to understand, there's an influx of people moving into Texas right now that are coming from California, New York, the Northwest, and there's a lot of these people who are political refugees. Like, we used to call them in Massachusetts coming into New Hampshire. They're political refugees, but there's also people moving here who are moving because they screwed up their state. Now they want to come screw up Texas, and they want to, liberalize it. And I'm like, guys, this is ridiculous. But I'm beginning to see even a shift here. In the several years that I've been here, there is a shift happening. Now, keep in mind, we're also in Tornado Alley, so people are going to feel the weather a little bit more directly. So I've actually spoken with a number of people this past year, and they said, "Well, isn't the weather's getting worse though, isn't it?" I'm like, it's not though. It's not getting worse. In fact, from 2011 to 2021, less than half of those years, I think it was 3 years out of those, that 10-year decade, was at or above average for tornadoes. Every other year was below average. Now, we've had about 2 or 3 years recently where we had a little bit more activity, but that's not proof that climate is changing. That's not proof that we're causing something to happen. That's just called weather cycles. That's what happens. So looking back here at Texas and the political climate, I think people feel it a little bit more directly and they ask more questions. And then, of course, as well as I do, paying attention to the media just loves to throw out so much. They throw out fear like it's Halloween. They say, "Here's fear candy, fear candy, fear candy, happy fear day," and it just drives people nuts. But I think that, like you were talking about at the beginning of the show, I think the tide is changing, especially with people like Bill Gates who have all the money in the world, are beginning to now say, "Look, I can't keep up this lie. This is ridiculous." So hopefully AOC, in all her wisdom, and others like her, begin to turn the tide too, and come to the truth.
This is great stuff, Joshua. I can see why you've got so many fans in the chat, especially our friend Penelope has made herself known. She says that she lived in New Hampshire as well. And that Susan Cater, she says, is her name. And she says,
Yeah.
next we need to get rid of property taxes, especially for us old folks. That's the number one reason I left New Hampshire. Is that why you left New Hampshire, Joshua?
Man, I left New Hampshire because I just felt a higher calling to come to Texas and take what I learned and come here.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's been one of the best moves of my life. I ended up, meeting my wife, starting a family. We're just, I guess you could say we're kind of living the dream. And I feel really blessed to live in this time. I know there's a lot of political turmoil going on, but I was actually woke up and I do my daily encounters with the Lord. And man, it was so much fun because I'm sitting there just kind of in my quiet time thinking about it. I'm like, I really do feel blessed to live in this period because I could wake up today and feel the threat of being bombed or stabbed or shot, and I don't. I can carry my firearm anywhere I want to go, for the most part, and I've got protection. And I just really I want to leave people with encouragement. I know it's hard out there, and I know there's a lot of nasty things happening, but man, to live in such a time as this and to be able to pursue liberty and our God and just love on people and love everything that's happening. I mean, it's beautiful. I know there's bad things happening, but I love to leave people with hope.
Josh, here's a question from the chat. Any chance you can comment on cloud seeding? I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, John. Tell me.
Yeah. No. So I guess in short, I've had some discussions with this recently with friends, and I'm not totally bought into cloud seeding. Here's what I do. I'm not rejecting it, but I don't buy into it either. I kind of put it on the back burner because right now, what I do know is that in the 1950s and 60s, they tried to blow up tornadoes with bombs in certain places. I'm not even joking. Yeah, it's documented, and it kind of disrupted it, but not really. And there was a lot of, so they stopped it because for obvious reasons. But I don't think it's necessarily happening. If it is, it's at a very, very, very small level. To say though that a Category 5 hurricane that just smashed into Jamaica might be as a result of cloud seeding, which I've heard people say, I don't buy it. Here's what I would say. I bring it back home. I say, hey, just put aside the cloud seeding for a moment. What about the weather in your area? Because most people don't even know weather history. Weather history matters. You got to compare today to 50 years ago to know if cloud seeding is actually having an effect. Otherwise, you're just looking at the sky and you're buying into whatever somebody's selling you. Again, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I put it to the side.
No,
and say,
it's happening in certain areas. I mean, I've definitely seen the grants. Sometimes it becomes kind of like a kind of form of socialism where it's like the government will offer these grants to people to test cloud seeding to see if they can alter the weather, but it doesn't show like any results that it actually accomplishes what it aims to do. But the concerns, of course, is that international child predators are lacing the skies with chemicals and fluoride to keep us sedated so that we don't rise up against our masters in the Illuminati and the other people like the Jews who control the world. Any thoughts on that? The globalist cabal, a conspiracy against our rights, and the chemtrails that are placed in the skies. Would you like to comment on that more specifically?
I think that if someone can prove that, by all means, let us all know. In the meantime, here's what we do know is happening. People are struggling. They want to buy a home and they can't because things are too expensive. We do have political turmoil happening in our country, and I would rather address the things that we absolutely know are happening, and then address those things once we can figure out what the heck a woman is. We can figure out what the Illuminati has to do with cloud seeding.
Hey, your obfuscation here leads me to wonder if you might be in on it.
Maybe.
Hey, a lot of people believe that shit. Joshua, we're glad and thankful to have you here, buddy. This has been a fantastic conversation. I can see why so many people really like you. So I hope that I hope that you'll come back and join us again next time we have a really cool climate change story like this. This is fundamentally transformational to the climate change argument, the whole debate that we've been having for decades and decades. This is kind of the pivot point. Did you ever look into Bill Gates' finances and see if maybe certain investments didn't pan out, or maybe he's invested in new things? Couldn't there be a financial, question here in all of this climate change brouhaha?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't dug deep into it because that's a lot. That's hours, probably hundreds of hours of research, which I just don't have time for at the moment. But suffice it to say, Austin, I think you're onto something. It almost always has to do with money. I mean, scripture tells us the love of money is the root of all evil, the love of it. And I think Bill Gates loves it. That seems pretty clear to me. So that's more than likely what's happening here, aside from the fact that I think he's looking at things going, this is a little difficult. I just don't see the weather getting that bad, as bad as they claim it. The Eastern Seaboard was supposed to be underwater. Miami, New York, and Philadelphia weren't supposed to exist in 2015. That was 10 years ago, man. What in the world? They just keep moving the goalpost. I'm like, gosh, dog, guys, I chase this stuff. It would be interesting to see more twisters around, but they're not. It's not happening.
Joshua, I know I've only got you for a couple more minutes, but I'd love it if you would just end strong and tell us like one of your scariest survival stories of a storm that you chased, whether a tornado or a hurricane. Tell us one of your best.
Yeah, so there was one actually at the moment. I guess this was, I'm bringing the whole family into it. This was about 2000, I think, 11 or 12. We're in La Crosse, Kansas. I'm with my brother and my mom and dad. We all do it together. We've done it as a family. We were in La Crosse, Kansas, chasing a tornado. We go to a gas station. We stop. There's a Kansas native with a straw sticking out his mouth. He goes, y'all best to get out of here. He gets in his truck, hauls tail out of there. We're at a Casey's gas station in the middle of nowhere in this little tiny town. The wind starts to pick up, trash can slides. We park on the north side of the gas station, and the car starts rocking and lifting. I mean, it's bouncing. And my brother at the time, who's probably, I don't know, 11 or 12, he looks at my dad. He goes, Dad, are we going to die? And my dad said, I don't know. And we hung on. We saw the siding tearing off the building. We parked on the other side of the building, and in the flashes of light, you could see I think it was an EF2 tornado that had passed by just next to us in the building. So we were very lucky. It was at night.
Wow, Joshua Moore, this has been a fantastic conversation, brother, and I'm so grateful that you were able to switch the times for us to make this all work. Yeah. So thanks so much for getting up early for us down there in Texas. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go? If you have anything you'd like to plug, websites you need to drop, please do so now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually go to forlibertyandjustice.us. We have news, podcasts, all kinds of information. I'm the director of education of the ministry organization. That's forlibertyandjustice.us, all spelled out.
There we go, Joshua Moore. That's fantastic, brother. Thanks so much for reaching out. It was a great conversation. I hope you'll come back again soon.
I love it. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks. Bye-bye.